Welcome to Truth Sentinel, watching over the truth in the news. Um, Good to see everyone again. Sorry, it's been quite a long delay since we last had an episode. Just checking a few technical things. I was hoping to stream to Rumble today, but I've got a feeling it's not working. I'll just check with my technical assistant. Hopefully, he's on the case. Because we at some point we do need to shift over to Rumble because we all know YouTube is now no longer championing free speech. So I'll get my technical guy to look at this, otherwise known as a friend called Neil. Hopefully he'll reply in a moment. It's probably not working. That's probably why I haven't heard from him. So anyway, we'll try and get that working for next time. If so, and gradually we'll try and get subscribers from YouTube to move across to Rumble. Seems to be the best one at the moment for streaming anyway, and for free speech. Yeah, it looks like it's not working. Okay, I'll just message my technical assistant. Okay, and I'll let him know that it's going to be on YouTube today. So sorry for anyone who's waiting on Rumble. If you can come back to YouTube, and we'll try and sort that out for next time. They do make it slightly more difficult to stream to Rumble. You've got to maybe during the break I'll try and sort that out. It's to do with passcodes and things that you have to set up. It looked like it was going to work, but anyway, never mind. Apologies once again for the length of time, partly due to sickness on my part, actually. Yeah, didn't get a healthy start to the new year. Maybe they've switched on the 5G around here because yeah, I was quite ill for a while, but much better now. I'm gonna be trying to get really fit this week. Go to the gym more and do some Muay Thai boxing. There's a lot of news to catch up on. We'll try and just mention. It'll be nice and free and easy today, just talking about generally what's going on in the world. And of course, today, it could be Armageddon today because we have the eclipse going on in the US, and we'll be bringing Seth in at the moment. And we might even get to hear Seth look out the window and say, that might be the eclipse happening now. But we might not. This show's only going to be going on for about an hour, just over an hour maybe, so we might even miss it, I don't know. But it doesn't really matter. There's also the Devil's Comet, I think, is passing through today, so there's a lot happening in the skies. Is it a sign of the apocalypse? Who knows? So I'll just run through a few things and I'll bring Seth in. So what news is there? Well, let's go to the Truth Sentinel cat. He's lying on the bed at the moment, and he has committed a few homicides over the past few months, mostly squirrels, bats, and rats. He brought a huge rat home a couple of weeks ago, like almost seriously about the same size as him. This rat was, and I was going to say luckily it was dead, but not luckily for the rat, but it was dead, because if it was alive, I don't think I could have caught the damn thing. Yeah, but I'll bring the Truth Sentinel cat over in a while. Other news, the Truth Sentinel book is main piece of news at the moment. It's going to hopefully be finished at the end of this year. It's only really recently where I kind of thought, this has to be done, really. I'll just show you something about the Truth Sentinel book. Hang on a second. Yeah, I just thought that it could be done and I should do it, really, because we've had 40 guests on talking about various topics. And I think that I could probably rustle something up enough to make a book by using transcripts from interviews. Here's the rough front cover. It's probably not going to be this cover later on, but just to let you have a look. It's going to be excerpts from 40 interviews with alternative thinker guests like, Gareth Icke and Max Egan and Sean Stone. We'll be talking about COVID-19, 9/11, secret societies, pyramids, head transplants, conspiracies, philosophy, and it's going to be interspersed with woke commentary from AI, an AI chatbot. That's going to be one sort of gimmicky thing about the book. I'm going to compare with what our guests said on the shows with an AI chatbot. So obviously they're going to have different opinions as to what happened on 9/11 and what the COVID-19 pandemic was about. I think it'll be interesting because the AI chatbot will basically represent the narrative of mainstream society. So that's going to be happening during the book with also comments from myself, text excerpts from the 40 interviews. I think it could be quite a good book. Definitely something you can share with your normie friends or with people who are very open-minded will enjoy it as well, I believe. If you enjoy reading, of course. I'm not much of a reader myself, to be honest, but a book like this I probably would read because it's kind of the sort of topic matter that I'll be interested in. And I do sometimes read. I used to read a lot when I was younger, but not so much these days. I do read books on survival at the moment because, let's face it, we live in very strange times. I think I've got other people saying that the Rumble one's not working. Sorry about that, guys. But what about YouTube? Can anyone confirm that YouTube is working? I need to get back to the main chat. Let's see. Yep, I think so. Yeah, working. Sorry, we're working on YouTube, but not on Rumble. A few things that I'm going to mention today. Also, I have set up just in case. It does cost a bit to do the streaming on StreamYard and Rumble and stuff. If anyone would like to contribute sometime, I really do appreciate it. I'm going to put 2 links in the chat for anyone. Only people who've got the money to spare. I'm not talking about if you don't have much money. I'm pretty broke myself, to be honest, and any contributions really does help, even if it's just a little bit. Seriously, like $5, £5, it all really helps. Just to cover the subscriptions, because it keeps bouncing. To be honest, I get a message from I can't remember his name at StreamYard, but it bounces every month, and I just have to wait till there's money in the account so that it will cover it. So I set up another little donation thing. Buy me a coffee. That's especially for small donations. So let me just put that in the chat as well. The buy me a coffee one, that's just in case you can't get the other one working, the PayPal one. Buy me a coffee one, doesn't use PayPal. It's just you can use any card or anything like that. Really do appreciate anyone, and especially I noticed Alex Jones got donated $8 million worth of Bitcoin from a mystery donator. If that person happens to be skipping through the channels and comes across Truth Sentinel, I don't want $8 million. I don't want $5 million. Not even 4. Don't need 3, 2, 1. Just give me 500,000, and I can just dedicate my entire life to doing this show, and we can upgrade all the equipment and get a studio like Alex Jones. But if you haven't got a spare $500,000, I could make do with 100,000. And really, seriously, if that's too much and you just want to chuck away some of your loose change, $10,000. That would help too. But everyone else, 5, 10, 15, look, whatever you can spare. That's enough of the donations talk. Things that have been happening in the news. Well, there's been all the old bridge collapses, the aid workers killed in Gaza, got the eclipse and the Devil's Comet, the sacrificial red heifers. If you've heard about those, that's supposed to bring in the reign of the Antichrist. For biblical prophecy. The election, of course, we must chat to Seth about whether election fever is happening. that all the Trump court cases have been going on. All these moon landing attempts I find a bit strange. After so many years, suddenly everyone decides to go at the same time. I think there's a reason for that. I don't even know what it is, but something is suspicious, if you ask me. We've got the people dying suddenly, which of course are not caused by the vaccines. I must stress that. They're not caused by that. It could be anything. It's baffling, and it really could be anything, but it can't be the vaccines. Anything but that, okay? I want to make that clear. What else? I have been involved in some cryptocurrency day trading. I'll tell you about that. It's probably not a good sign that I was asking for donations at the beginning. That might tell you how my cryptocurrency day trading went. Bird flu, could that be the new pandemic that's coming? There's been some activity on that, which we'll maybe talk about. By the way, coming quickly back to the Truth Sentinel book, if you're interested, if you think, at the end of the year, I might like to buy that book, please go to the Truth Sentinel website, www.truthsentinel.co.uk, and click on the sign up for the book box. You'll see roughly in the middle of the website, and type your email address in there. It's a good idea for me to get to know numbers. I'm either going to self-publish or try and get a publisher for the book. So yeah, please at some time go to the website. I'll say that a couple of times during the show. So that's going to be something I'm just going to be plugging, because it could actually help fund this show as well. Funding this show will actually give me more time to devote doing this show. It's not really good to do one show every 3 months. It would be better to do it every 2 weeks or every month, really. And I would like to do that. Anyway, that's enough of me waffling. Let's go to Seth and see how he's getting on.
Hi, I'm
Hello,
back.
Seth.
Can you hear me coming through all right?
Hey. Yeah, I can hear you crystal clear. How are you,
Awesome.
Seth?
Oh, great. The internet always seems to be really spotty and weird whenever it's overcast at all out here. And almost every single time we've been doing the news the last few months, it seems to have, well, the last like half of a year there. It's been great weather out
Well,
here.
if it does, we can just blame it on the eclipse.
Of course. But that's why I relocated and stuff. It took me a couple minutes. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late on this.
That's no worries at all. No, today's a nice, relaxed show where there's no stress around here. Let's just see. There's a few people in the chat. That's good. Anyone in the chat, if you've got any topics you want us to talk about today, please write them in there. Seth, so what have you been up to in the last few months? I know it's been a while since our last show was probably December last year, wasn't it? So
yeah, maybe a little bit before that, man. We've been trying to set stuff up for like I don't know. There's been like maybe 6 or 7 canceled episodes already that we had set up there. I had a huge file of all the news articles that I wanted to talk about, but I just said screw it and brought up a bunch of new stuff that I found in the news cycle today, yesterday, stuff like that, in order to keep it relevant. So I'm not just bringing up old news.
Well, yeah. Today we're just going to be just chatting, basically. I found a few links to talk about, but really there has been quite a lot going on, so I don't think we'll be stuck for things to talk about. And the idea of the chat show kind of thing is to get other people involved, so people can write in the chat box and give us ideas, and maybe even someone wants to come and talk to us later. So I'll send the link for that later. You just need a headset, and you can switch off your video. It'll save the bandwidth, and I'll send the link out, and you can come and join us and tell us what you think's going on in the world. So what about the bridge thing that happened the other day with that container ship that hit the bridge over there in the States? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah. I hadn't seen anything about that at all, Scott. So
really?
You tell me. I got to reconnect my power supply here for a second for my computer.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, no, there was the container ship that hit that bridge, and some people said it could actually be a covert attack from some other country like Russia or North Korea, and other people just saying, "Oh no, it was just a basic accident." I'll just pull up some news about it, see if anything's happened recently. Container ship. The name of the container ship was Dali. I remember that because Salvador Dali is one of my favorite artists. So let me just give you a bit of background. I'm sure a lot of people heard about this. It was the Baltimore Bridge, which collapsed after a container ship hit it, and obviously that's going to cause problems with logistics. Um, Carrying, apparently, it's a main place for hazardous materials to be carried across. Um, 6 people were presumed dead after the cargo ship hit the Baltimore Bridge, and they lost power. Basically, I did hear today that another ship lost power, but I don't know. I never got time to read into that or read anything about that. So, yeah, someone said another ship lost power today as well, but it didn't hit a bridge. So that's
Wow.
something.
I can't believe I hadn't heard anything about that. I mean, I looked all over the news cycle for stuff for the last few days, and it's apparently they said this happened less than 2 weeks after failure on another massive cargo vessel caused it to smash into Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge. But now they just had another one. Massive container ship lost propulsion power in the waters around New York City and was brought to a rest near Verrazano Narrows Bridge Friday night. So I mean,
Okay, so well, that's good because you've given us an update on the second one because I'd only heard that something had happened. What about the Devil's Comet? Have you heard about that?
I've heard nothing about the Devil's Comet. So
that's supposed to be flying past today. I'm actually going to part of my book, as I mentioned, my new book. I'm going to have a AI chatbot giving woke kind of commentary on the kind of things that we talk about on the show to sort of show. I'm going to try to show the uses of AI through the book, but how ridiculously woke it is in other aspects. But I've actually got the AI chat here, so I'm going to ask it. The one useful thing is just using it like Google, basically. So if I type in Devil's Comet, it'll say, no, it says, Haley Bob. There's no widely recognized Devil's Comet. They're talking about Haley Bopp Comet. I don't think it is that one. So that just shows how crap this AI chatbot.
Well, it's not even used for math in most stuff because while it can give you the right answers for math problems, it can totally give you gobbledygook that is just worthless. So, I mean, it's a lot of people will say that it's not totally reliable. It can be more useful for certain things, like if you're wanting it to pose questions to you or have like little back and forths type stuff. But really, it's not that great, man. Everybody's worried about AI replacing everything, and it's more just like a tool that's in its infancy rather than something that is so vastly superior to anything. And it's the same thing I've noticed with AI art and all that kind of stuff. There's like a lot of artists out here that are way too freaked out by this stuff because
I think it is early days yet. I think it does have uses just for, like, for example, starting to write the book, if I want to do like a quick short paragraph to introduce who the guest I had on the show, I can type in who is Sean Stone, and then it'll do quite a nice little summary. So it's kind of useful for that kind of stuff. But if you say to it, did a plane hit the Pentagon during the 9/11 attacks? It'll say, of course, and conspiracy theorists who say that it didn't have no evidence. So I wanted to show that.
And the moon landing happened, and Kennedy was assassinated by a random. Exactly. It's all mainstream narrative stuff, but
everything
of course
happened exactly how it was said in the media, according to the AI chatbot.
Well, that's the thing.
That's what I want to show during the writing of the book. Is
Yeah.
We've got the guest saying one thing, and AI chatbots, basically, they represent the media. They represent the media's narration of what happened. So I think it'll be useful.
Well, doesn't that make sense that it does? Is because that's what it's trained on. And an algorithm can only put out what it's trained on. And then people have this weird idea that the algorithm could think for itself or something. And it's not an actual artificial intelligence. People even using the term AI are bastardizing that term horribly over what like the conjures in your mind with the idea of AI, artificial intelligence. They're complex algorithms. They're very complex algorithms, but they're still complex algorithms. They have to have like information in, information out, and the information out is always going to be based on what the information in was. And if they don't put anything telling the AI that, well, actually, some people say that 9/11 plane didn't hit the Pentagon or what, anything like that, then it's, of course, it's not going to give us answers that are going to conform to a quote unquote conspiracy theorist worldview, because it's entirely based on mainstream narrative. And that's why it's always going to give you mainstream narrative.
Which is why it'll be perfect in my book as a kind of, let's check in with the AI and see what it thinks. And it's going to be so ridiculous. It's just, I think it'll be a good way to illustrate. But at the same time, I'm going to show that it's good if you just want to say, who is Sean Stone, So I'm going to use that through the book. But I haven't tried using the AI art yet. What's that like, Seth?
Depends on the program you use, depends on user skill, user knowledge, because it's actually, as much as people want to just crap on it carte blanche, like just across the board, I actually think it's something that in the right hands, again, tool, right? Like for a lot, especially for people that can't really do art, it can be very empowering, can give you something that you can just kind of immediately put out. For a lot of content creators, that can be great. I mean, I've seen people that put YouTube videos out that'll occasionally have AI art intermixed into stuff when they're talking about things, just to have an image that's kind of like a replacement for a stock image. You'd normally have to be like a member of something like Photo Bucket or something in order to use. That can be very helpful. And also for a lot of actual like artists, you can use AI art to come up with concept art, just so that way you're not wasting your time with a bunch of different stuff. So you can see what generally the concept you're trying to look to do would look like, but you don't have to take anything from it. It's just, it's interesting. It has its uses. I've also seen it produce some pretty damn good art. I've also seen it produce absolutely the worst, atrocious garbage I have ever seen. But at the same time, you ever see that popular, what do they call it, Allegri art? That's really popular right now. I can't stand it. So
I don't
AI
know
art could be good, could be bad.
Yeah.
It's the art that you'll see on a lot of stuff like Google or Facebook or whatever. It'll have that weird blocky geometric shape people art, and it's absolutely terrible.
What's the best free AI art generator?
Used to be Bing Image Creator, hands down. Might still maybe be. It's just Bing is so censored now. I don't know that I would go with it on anything. Probably, I don't know, man, because Starry Night that they used to have, or Starry AI, was completely jacked with censorship, and so is Night Cafe. So I guess the best would be, I don't know, what the heck is the one everybody was using at first? DALL-E 2 or DALL-E
2. That's
DALL-E
interesting.
2.
I just mentioned DALL-E because that was the name of the container ship that hit the bridge was DALL-E. Yeah.
That's awesome. But it's spelled slightly differently. It's like DALL-E, right? But that program's all right overall. I think Bing might still be the best. It's just everything's so heavily censored now. Not even like from controversial stuff, but from really, really, really uncontroversial stuff that for some reason the algorithm picks up as though you're trying to make lewd images or violence or something. I mean, early on, I used to be able to make a lot of really cool fantasy art because, I mean, I write fantasy books and stuff. And you could come up with really cool stuff of like zombies, knights fighting skeletons, all sorts of stuff like that. And now it's pretty damn limited, man. If you're willing to pay for something like Midjourney, it's still censored, but you can get way, way, way better art, and it's not nearly as bad. It's just all a matter of
I won't be willing to pay anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, agreed. If it's free on the internet, or I could pirate it on the internet, so it's again free on the internet, you betcha.
Can anyone see? I'm trying to share one of the pages at the moment. I don't know if that's coming out though. Just to show I wasn't making up. It says total solar eclipse 2024. How to see the devil comet with horns on April the 8th. There's not. I'll just quickly read it. There's not just one, but two reasons to gaze at the sky on April the 8th. In addition to the rare total solar eclipse, another celestial event will grace the skies. A bright green space rock, nicknamed the Devil Comet, could potentially be visible to the naked eye. Enough of that. Seth, talking of the eclipse, have
Yes, sir.
you are you near a window? Like, it's probably not
Well,
happening
I'm
yet, but
literally outside right now, Scott. I had to relocate.
that's dedication. Is it cold out there?
Oh, very.
Sorry, I didn't realize. I thought you were actually inside. Sorry.
Well, I
Well,
was
that
at one
that
point,
is
and then my
dedication. We
internet
really
started
appreciate
sucking.
that. We appreciate that. So, if everything goes dark, either you've lost electricity or the
Well,
eclipse is
thankfully, it's
happening.
not an electricity thing because I'm outside. So if everything goes dark, it's either nope, yep, just the eclipse. But also, it's overcast as I'll get out here. So I don't know.
I heard that actually it may not be a total eclipse where you are, because you're not far from Seattle, are you? In Seattle, it's going
Yeah,
to be
no.
about 23% of an eclipse, apparently.
Then that's like nothing. I know they're saying on the East Coast you should be able to see it way better, and it should be way more impactful.
Well,
So
you might see a little chunk of the sun disappear. That'll be something. It probably gets a little bit darker. Anyway, um, other things that I'll mention a few things that have just happened in the news, just and see if you've got anything to say about them. What about? Okay, first of all, we should mention the election. How's it
oh
going
yeah,
with the election fever over there?
absolutely insane, man. Social media is popping with it. It's all us versus them. A bunch of the right wing people feel like they've gone full Trump and everything is all Trump all the time, all the way. There is no more Republican Party. It's the Trump Party, and it's absolutely ridiculous. There are certain Republicans I've seen that have kind of either, I guess, aren't going to vote in this election, or like, I don't know, man, because they can't stand Donald Trump and they feel like he's taken over the entire party with all his own particular petty politics and stuff. So I don't know what's going on with that. I know left wing people have gone, everybody's a Nazi on the other side. Everybody's a fascist. We're all fighting it for the international brotherhood, comrade. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't want to be pulled into either of these things because this is the exact same sort of crap they say every 4 years here,
But
and they
Seth,
say
you
every
have
4 years or
to.
whatever.
Seth, you have to choose. You have to choose. You have to choose Trump or Biden. It's like, if you don't, then you're
Well, they
part of
hate
the
you even
problem.
more. Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
they'll hate you even more. They literally hate you even more because then they say, "Oh, well, at least the Trumpers have the balls to claim it. At least those damn commies on the left have the balls to claim it instead of you just being a waffling flip-flopper." Like, yeah, okay, man. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I heard someone say that. I've heard some of the truther kind of channels, and people were saying, but they were getting angry that people weren't going to vote for Trump. They were saying, what are you going to do then? Vote for Biden?" It's like, can't you see how ridiculous that situation is in politics, where you're one or the other or nothing, and you're getting angry about it? It's like, how about let's bring down the entire system? It's all a load of old rubbish.
Well, God, Scott, you remember the Trump stuff in 2016 when everybody seemed to lose their goddamn minds in the truther community, and we got split 100% in half. Like it was brutal, man. There are tons of people that like up until that moment, including guys like Alex Jones, though I stopped watching him like for a hot minute before he went full Trump. But like he just the left right paradigm is bad. We don't support right wing or left wing people because they're both working for the exact same international globalist cabal. Until Donald Trump runs, then suddenly,
Yeah,
no, he's different. This is different. Come on, the Republicans need to take over all these lib cucks. And it's like,
yeah.
what are you doing, guys? What are
I
you
still
doing?
watch. I still watch Alex Jones, and it's kind of sad to see. I still like Alex Jones. I think his heart's in the right place, but no, the Trump thing's a big mistake. Not only Trump, he'd probably get angry if he heard someone saying it, but he kind of worships Trump and he worships Elon Musk.
Big
I
time.
think he's just kind of starstruck by them. Partly Trump, both of them have been on his show, and that's partly it. Trump came on his show, and Elon Musk did a
Yep.
live chat with him and reinstated him. It's like it's the power Elon Musk had, was to like give him back his freedom on Twitter.
And bro, if they're willing to do that, then that means Alex Jones plays the game. Alex Jones is part of the system to some degree because he's
I
willing to
don't
play
think
with the people
anyone's
that
I don't think anyone's bought him off. I think he's just making grave errors, or he's being swayed like by peer pressure, or by I really don't think anyone's going you're slipping him like a couple of million. Apart from that mysterious Bitcoin person, slipping him a couple of million and saying, "You need to say this." I don't think he's not that kind of guy, but someone did donate $8 million to the Alex Jones show
Mm-hmm.
anonymously. Don't you think that's kind of weird?
Well, Scott, then how could you just said what you just said? I don't think anybody slipped him money, but they did donate
No, I don't think
anonymously.
anyone slipped him money and said, "You must say this."
Oh, fair enough.
But
But we know
someone
who
has
somebody's
slipped him $8
butters his
million.
bread. Yeah. Well, and dude, like, let's say they bought 200,000 bottles of super male vitality or whatever, right? Like that becomes the thing is, it's exactly how politicians get payoffs. They endorse these mega companies and then get paid later to have created legislation several years prior. And then they do speeches at colleges, or they'll go to a company and become an advisor on an advisory board for a particular company, like let's say Lockheed Martin, Boeing, or something like that. And then yeah, suddenly they're getting a couple $100,000 a year, maybe even only $120,000 a year.
Think it might
but
be
that's
a
enough
trap.
to add up, man.
I think it might be a trap. Someone gives him $8 million in a hard time period of his life when he's got no money. Because let's face it, he had all those court cases. They give him the $8 million anonymously. He obviously spends it on the show or whatever. And then 5 years down the line, they contact him and say, "Oh, there was a grave mistake we made 5 years ago. We accidentally put $8 million in your account. You need to give it back. By law, you need to give that back. We can prove this was a clerical error. It wasn't within your rights to spend it. You need to give it back." And he'll be like, "But I haven't got it." And then they'll be like, "We're taking you to court, and we're going to make you go under." It's like,
well,
I think
legally, I don't know they have to do that, man, because they've already like taken him for some insano amount, like in the hundreds of millions or like $1 billion.
It was almost to the trillion. It actually was almost went to the $1 trillion mark. The amount they were trying to
an amount of money that even like most countries don't have. For some reason, this one guy will have, and it's like you realize after you put it to a certain degree, it becomes meaningless, right? Because of course he can just, and this is something that a lot of people won't acknowledge, but once you declare bankruptcy, if you have any kind of bounce back on anything, then you're back. You're back. Yeah. We've watched Donald Trump declare bankruptcy like 3 times. So all the people that are like, Alex Jones is completely destroyed. I mean, obviously not. Obviously not. He's still here, but that's because he's rubbed shoulders with the right people. And it's almost like when he knew that he was going to get popped with the Sandy Hook stuff and everything, and that the entire media was going to turn against him and try and destroy him and stuff like that, that he started getting close and rubbing shoulders with a bunch of politicians on one particular side of the spectrum, and different figures on one particular side of the spectrum, hoping that he would get a golden parachute out of this somehow. And I mean, maybe he has. Maybe he has. I've heard a lot of real nasty stuff about this dude from former employees that shouldn't be saying anything because they're under non-disclosure agreements, but they don't say it publicly. And so
I can tell. Although I don't really believe that anyone's totally pulling Alex Jones's strings about what he's going to say, you can tell that. You can kind of see that he probably doesn't treat his crew that well. He's you can tell sometimes he's very demanding, shouts, and then he says, "I'm not blaming the crew. I'm not blaming the crew, but I bet behind the scenes he is." So, but I think
sexual harassment, weird racist stuff. I mean, there's stuff that I don't know, should I say this, but I happen to know through the grapevine that he'd said some really horrible racist crap in front of that Jakari Jackson guy that used to work there. And that's part of why that guy left. And he said it outright, that he's like covering the stuff with, I believe it was with Ferguson and stuff, N-word stuff, Scott. Let's just drop in N-bombs right with this guy right here that works for him and acting like, "Oh, but not you. You're one of the good ones." That's insane, man. That's insane. Granted, that could all be wrong. That guy could have entirely lied and besmirched the character of Alex Jones, but just there's so much stuff like that, man. The thing of him with the like the trans porn on his phone on like an ad that he had on his own website, despite him also being the guy that wants to go out and attack a bunch of people and stuff over their like who they are and everything. And it's like, come on, man. How are you going to be publicly Mr. like trans people are bad and then also, you know, doing the nasty to that? Like, come on, dude. Come on.
He
No,
did
it
have
was just a
he has had
mistake.
trans guests on his show though, and
Yeah,
I don't know
on one side
with
of the
the
spectrum.
racism thing. I've never actually heard him say anything racist on the actual show. In his defense, because he's always accused of being racist or anti-Jewish, but I've never actually heard him say anything like that live on air. But behind the scenes, who
I've heard
knows?
way more stuff about him being like a Jewish op than of him being anti-Jewish. The only time I ever hear that is from like mainstream media, but from most people in
Yeah,
the
but he gets
community,
that from
they're
both
like,
sides. He gets
exactly.
people saying, and then to his credit though, he brings the people onto his show face to face. You know, like Nick Fuentes, he came on, and I don't like that guy, to be honest.
Yeah.
Then he brought Stu Peters on, who suddenly went like completely. I do think there has been obviously there's a genocide going on, with the Israel Palestine.
Well, yeah, real hard
But
right now. In fact, we're going to talk
that
about
has
that.
opened the floodgates. That has opened the floodgates for real anti-Jewish. People feel they can just say stuff that they wouldn't have said a year ago. You know.
Well, Scott, how much stuff did people say about German
example.
people the second the freaking Nazis and stuff like that? Everybody, I mean, for the last 80 years, people have used Germans as the stand-in bad guys, even when they're not actual like quote unquote Nazis. They are evil.
Germans. People say Nazis. I don't think there aren't many people that would say Nazis were good people, but there probably are actually. Nick Pointers probably says Nazis are good people.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, man, is that when you have a group of people that claim to represent all members of a particular group and they start doing really bad stuff, you're going to get a lot of people that try and use that to justify like negative stuff against the entire group. And like I said, we're going to actually talk about that. In fact, do you want to start with that or do you want to start with stuff with Ukraine? Because I actually have a little bit to talk about with Ukraine.
Ukraine, let's see. Yeah, kick us off with Ukraine then.
Hey, Scott, you just paused.
Oh, hang on a moment.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
And yeah. Sorry, you just like paused for a second. I don't know if it was on my end or your end, but
I might have hit the wrong button.
Okay.
Yeah. Kick us off with Ukraine then.
Okay, we have out of RT, and I mean obviously grain of salt or whatever, like Russia Today, but Russia claims significant evidence of Kiev's involvement in Crocus terrorist attack. Head of Russia's investigative community has chaired a meeting on the March 22nd atrocity. Russian law enforcement has uncovered a potential link between Ukrainian special services and last month's terrorist attack at a music hall outside Moscow, the investigative committee said on Monday. Statement was released after a meeting chaired by Alexander Bastrykin, head of the Russian agency, where progress in the high-profile case was discussed. The report declined to provide details on what was said at the gathering, only citing "quote-unquote" significant evidence of Kiev's involvement and repeating information that was already publicly available. The attack involved 4 gunmen who stormed Crocus City Hall ahead of a concert. They made their way to the main auditorium, shooting indiscriminately, and set the building on fire. Over 140 people were killed. Holy crap. The 4 suspected perpetrators and 7 alleged accomplices have been arrested. Russian officials have expressed strong suspicion that the crime was masterminded by the Ukrainian government, which supposedly used radical Islamists to carry it out. Kiev has denied allegations, initially claimed that Moscow was behind the attack. That's completely possible. And later sided with Western nations, which maintained that ISIS-K, whatever that is, the Afghanistan-based offshoot of the international terrorist organization, Islamic State, has orchestrated the massacre, and the group has claimed responsibility. Now, I do think it's possible that Russian intelligence could be entirely responsible for this. This seems like something, if it happened in the United States, you'd have to at least weigh the possibility that the U.S. intelligence service was responsible. Of course, it's used to justify any sort of aggression that Russia could have with this. However, it's pretty clear also that Kiev is acting as a puppet, like a glove for the hand of Western imperialism on like the other side of it. And so, of course, they could be responsible, but it's not even that Kiev is the people at the end of the stuff creating the actual game plans for this and masterminding it. It could entirely be the CIA or somebody from NATO that's doing all this. And how would you know? How would I know?
Yeah, I know. That's true. I mean, and I've heard both points of view. Personally, I waver towards it's more like the West has done this.
Yeah, as they always do.
Yeah. I mean, obviously not. They haven't done it personally. They've outsourced it to some.
As they always do.
To some, they kind of look like Chechen kind of guys to me.
Yeah.
The people that did it. I saw. I mean, did you see they were like publicly torturing them to confess who got them to do it? They sliced one guy's ear off. This is all on video as well. Sliced one of the they caught them as they ran up into the forest. Sliced one guy's ear off and made him and fed it to him. Made him eat his own ear. They did that on camera, and this was all across the internet.
Russia, Twitter, man, Russia. Yeah, that's horrifying.
Around. Yeah, they don't mess around. And if the guys really did do it, and it appeared to be the same guys in the videos. I mean, you can't trust videos these days, but it appeared to be the same guys. And these terrorist guys were going around shooting people and slitting people's throats on video as well. So if it's those guys, then I don't have a lot of sympathy for them, really.
Yeah, but it's still horrifying that that's how Russia chooses to do that on public television or something, just available for everybody to check out.
I'm sure that was a message to everyone, like, we're not going to screw around with this.
Yeah, you get it. You get it. Like, woof. We have one more thing about Ukraine here real quick. This, again, out of Russia Today, so grain of salt. Support for quote-unquote authoritarian Zelensky falling, according to German media. Ukrainian president's failure. I was originally going to get this from Tagesspiegel, but I couldn't find English translation stuff. The Ukrainian president's failure to keep his election promises has contributed to public disenchantment, Tagesspiegel claims. Public support for Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is declining as he increasingly is perceived as an authoritarian ruler, German newspaper Tagesspiegel has claimed. In a report on Sunday, Tagesspiegel reported that approval ratings for Zelensky have, quote, recently sunk to 61%, citing fresh opinion polls by the Kiev International Institute of Sociology. The Ukrainian leader has enjoyed the support of more than 80% of citizens in the initial months of the conflict with Russia, as it broke out in 2022, the German outlet noted. In January, the New York Times reported the Ukrainians were growing weary of government narratives being pushed on TV, accusing them of painting an unrealistic picture of frontline developments. Oh, yeah, we've talked about that. In early March, Kiev Mayor Vitaly Klitschko openly criticized Zelensky's decision to fire the country's top military commander, Valery Zaluzhny, in the previous month. Klitschko has repeatedly accused the Ukrainian president of authoritarian tendencies. Tagesspiegel noted Stefan Meister, an Eastern Europe expert at the German Council on Foreign Relations Research Institute, SUS, as saying that Ukrainian society has become increasingly critical of authoritarian tendencies within Zelensky's government. And so my little 2 cents on this, just because I feel it bears mentioning, they support the dictator. They get behind the dictator. They get public support behind the dictator. The dictator does dictator things. Public support falls away from the dictator. The government says, our government, Western governments say, oh no, this monstrous dictator, we must overthrow him. Then they overthrow him. Then they kill him. Then they rewrite the history to say, we never supported that monster. Whoever could have guessed how this would happen, guys? And so I have a feeling Zelensky's days are numbered with this, and a lot of the people that initially supported him 100% are going to have a lot of egg on their face with this. Not to say that Russia's not very responsible for all sorts of horrifying atrocities in the region.
Absolutely. Now, I think the Vitaly Klitschko you mentioned is the same Vitaly Klitschko who was a professional boxer, former world champion boxer.
Wow, that's the same guy?
I believe it is, yeah. I think
Holy crap.
I know he moved into politics, so I presume it's the same guy. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's
maybe I'm just weird, but I don't know how much I want somebody that's been punched in the face repeatedly professionally as a political leader there. I mean,
what about a guy that used to dress up, and was a comedian before he and was an actor pretending to be a president before.
Yeah, Zelensky. Yeah.
Also on the Ukraine war, I did have an article myself, which was this one. I don't know if you've noticed this. This is just one example, but I would say we're definitely headed for World War III if we're not already in it. Denmark to start conscripting women for military service. This is happening all across Europe at the moment. In the UK, they're talking about bringing back conscription.
Holy crap.
Germany, in other places. This is a sure sign that not that there might be a war. This is a sure sign there's going to be World War III.
Yeah, and they're building up to it right now.
They're
They
just
need
building
meat
up to it,
shields.
and they're just
Yeah.
like they're starting conscription. They only do that when these wars, they don't just happen. They're planned in advance. So
Yeah, they're
when they
manufactured.
say bring back conscription, they mean we're going to have a war. That's what they mean.
Which is absolutely horrifying. Speaking of which, on that kind of a tip, we also have out of BBC here 1 day ago, Peter Pellegrini, whoever that is, says Russia-friendly populist elected Slovak president. Mr. Pellegrini, 48, defeated the pro-Western Ivan Korchok, a former diplomat with 53% of the vote. Former prime minister, he is an ally of Prime Minister Robert Fico, and shares the PM's dovish attitude towards Russia. Mr. Fico, or Fico, whatever, and his allies now control Slovakia's parliament, government, and soon the president's office. Slovakia has been one of Ukraine's staunchest allies before Mr. F came into power in October with the pledge to halt supplies of Slovak army military stocks to Kiev, with Mr. Pellegrini replacing Mr. Kapitova. Ukraine has now definitely lost a voice of support in the EU and NATO capital. That itself is very telling because BBC is already trying to paint certain governments that are not 100% behind the regime and behind the narrative as being pro-Russia, which very likely means that they're gearing people up to potentially invade, do violence against these people, one day go to war with them. Like we're at that sort of a level, man, and the propaganda has reached fever pitch. I mean, as an American, since 2016, the anti-Russian sentiment here has been insane, right? It died down a little bit 3-4 years after Trump had taken office, right before Biden took over, is that it was like they started to kind of die down on that narrative. But now as like tensions with Russia and stuff like that get reheated, it's same crap again.
It was obvious
that argues dissent is a Russian agent.
I was saying way before this war with Russia started, I was saying that because in the UK press, they were demonizing Putin, demonizing Russians, bringing up these stories about ships wandering into British territory. It was all just gearing up towards war. This was literally a couple of years, the 2 years before it all started. So they telegraph what they're going to do. One more thing I wanted to mention about the war before we maybe have a break, and I'll just bring the cat over as well in a moment. There was also some news, I think, in the last 24 hours, might have been the last 2 days. Ukraine war, UN body urges restraint after, I'm not going to try and pronounce Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant hit again. A new drone attack on Ukraine's power plant has raised the risk of a major nuclear accident. I sometimes wonder if they've had a couple of little stories like this about the nuclear power plants over there and how they're getting hit sometimes. I mean, it wouldn't be on the realms of possibility. Instead of a pandemic, which we should also another pandemic, we should also talk about the bird flu virus after the break. Instead of another pandemic, they could just say, "Oh no, a nuclear power station's been hit. There's nuclear radiation gone up into there. The whole of Europe's covered. It's drifting over to the States." I can see them doing something like that as well.
Yeah. Well, also climate change stuff. Keep in mind, they always have to keep Greta Thunberg on the back burner there. Then always show her, she got arrested at a thing. Wow, she's so brave for getting arrested. I'm like, consider that in Denmark or whatever, most of these arrests that they put on people at protests literally just take you like several blocks away and then release you, which is why she got arrested twice at the thing, because they just take you away, release you, and then you just go back. Like it's very, very political. Yeah, it's not like being arrested for protesting in some place like Russia or China where we might not ever see your ass again.
Yeah, they want to be arrested because it's good for the camera. While I go and get the cat, let me just share this with you, and maybe you can just comment on what you think about this, Seth. Is bird flu coming to people next? Are we ready? I'm just going to go and get the cat if you want to give your opinion on that.
Well, honestly, I've seen them disease fearmonger about almost anything you can imagine. Keep in mind that for those of you that have been listening to Scott and I for quite a while, you may remember that, my God, 2014, 10 years ago, almost to the day, I mean, it's a couple months, give or take, the entire Ebola insanity in the States and worldwide was a thing. So it's not really any different. Scott, I was just talking about the Ebola stuff. And so the fact that they've done that since then, we've had measles scares in the States. We've had all sorts of stuff that they'll throw at any given moment if they think it's effective. What made the COVID-19 stuff so effective is that it's new, it's novel. And so being novel, being scary, man, people are afraid. But whereas bird flu, we've already had like 3 or 4 major scares with that in the United States. And I don't know how much people are going to buy it. So I genuinely can't really give you an opinion on this one because I don't know, man. I don't know how people are going to go.
The only thing that made me think that they might be thinking about going with this one is they released the WHO released a statement today saying they're on the case with the bird flu because it's a major cause of concern and they're getting the vaccines ready. That's what they said today.
Oh, yay.
The True Sentinel cat doesn't seem to be that concerned, though. That's all I can say.
Well, thank God. I mean, the second the cat becomes concerned over international BS, the sooner that we have things to really, truly worry about.
Yeah. We might have a break now. I'll put on some music and just a few minutes break, and then we'll come back and continue talking.
Right on, right on. I've got, after the break, we have one last thing about the election stuff, which is them trying to say out of the Council on Foreign Relations that China is interfering in the election. We'll cover that. And then a bunch of stuff about Israel. And then some stuff that I saw this morning of the Catholic Church going after several different groups of people, which is lovely. Always love to see that. So
good to hear.
We'll be back.
Yeah, we'll be back after the break, everyone. I'll put some music on. This music will be Bob again, and the track is called Sleepwalking into Armageddon, which I think is appropriate because hopefully as it finishes, we'll see the skies darken above Seth and Armageddon, and the apocalypse will be with us. So see you after the break, everyone.
Psychology, formation of mass, slaves are all wannabes. Go on, have the last laugh. For great people, stand in the dream. Life, oh life, is it really what it seems? Sleepwalking into Armageddon. Sleepwalking into Armageddon. Sleepwalking into Armageddon.
And we're back. Just waiting on Scott here. Are you there, Scott? All right. Well, then I'm just gonna start getting into an article here while we wait for Scott. This is out of the Council on Foreign Relations. Now, I said before, take something with a big grain of salt when it came to Russia Today. This right here is like just the absolute devil. We have from, let's see, election 2024, China's effort to interfere in the U.S. presidential election. Each Friday, I look at what presidential contenders are saying about foreign policy. This week, China is following Russia's lead in meddling in the U.S. presidential election. Russia opened a new chapter in geopolitical competition in 2016 when it used social media to interfere in the U.S. presidential election. U.S. has never done that ever. Whether that effort affected the election's outcome can be debated. What seems beyond debate, given Russia's interference attempt in 2020 and again this year, is that the Kremlin thinks that meddling works. Need any help with that and extend Beijing's influence. This week, the New York Times reported that, quote, covert Chinese accounts are masquerading online as American supporters of former President Donald J. Trump, promoting conspiracy theories, stoking domestic divisions, and attacking President Biden ahead of November. This campaign, now being dubbed Spamouflage, has prompted Meta, the Facebook company, to take down thousands of fake Facebook accounts operating out of China. China's interference efforts mark a significant shift in policy. In 2021, the U.S. intelligence community concluded that China opted not to interfere in the 2020 election. Yeah, I bet. We assessed that China did not deploy interference efforts and considered, but did not deploy influence efforts intended to change the outcome of the U.S. presidential election. I wonder why that is. We have high confidence in this judgment. The intelligence community attributed the Chinese decision to a calculation that the costs of being caught meddling outweighed the potential benefits. Likely influencing that judgment was the assessment that, quote, Russia's efforts to interfere in the 2016 election significantly damaged Moscow's position and relationship to the United States. And then it continues. So, obviously, they're throwing out their propaganda stuff. I love the idea that somehow it would take interfering and meddling from a foreign government in order to undermine what people think of U.S. President Joe Biden. I know certainly no one would ever have anything to say that was bad about President Biden. Never. That sounds like Chinese propaganda to me. What do you say, Scott?
I'm having problems here at the moment.
Oh no, what's that?
Something's frozen. Yeah, I can't get my. I seem to be frozen on the screen, so it's because I tried to add back to Rumble. If you could just keep talking for a while.
Okay, well, you seemed like you were your screen was moving and stuff to me, just maybe not on your end. But then we're going to switch gears into the Israel-Palestine stuff. This is out of Al Jazeera. Again, as always, take everything with a grain of salt. We're going to go with several different sources for this one, but starting with this, live updates. Israel's war on Gaza live, quote unquote, no ceasefire deal on the horizon. Conflicting reports emerge on Gaza ceasefire talks in Cairo, with Egyptian media reporting significant progress, but Hamas and Israeli officials saying no agreement is even close. The International Court of Justice, ICJ, begins 2 days of hearings to consider Nicaragua's request that emergency measures be imposed on Germany over its support of Israel's war on Gaza. That actually is something that we're going to talk about a little bit more in detail here in a minute. Palestinians return to destroyed homes at Khan Yunis as Israeli troops withdraw months after they invaded the city in southern Gaza, and at least 33,200 Palestinians have been killed and almost 76,000 wounded in Israeli attacks on Gaza since October 7th. I would actually say that those numbers could potentially be much higher because there are a lot of people that never get recovered from that rubble. You know what I mean? When a bunch of buildings collapse and are blown into smithereens and people just get buried, there's people that never get found, man. The death toll in Israel from Hamas's October 7th attack stands at 1,139, with dozens still held captive. The the differential between those two things, it's never okay to be doing any of this. I mean, what Hamas did, if that's the case and all that, is absolutely atrocious and disgusting. But also the death toll there hasn't really climbed very much on the Israeli side since October 7th, whereas the Palestinians have over 100,000 casualties, well over 100,000 casualties, over 30,000 deaths. I mean, you think that's a little bit like of a disproportionate response, shall we say? While we wait for Scott, we'll switch gears again. This is a different article talking about the situation. Israel dismisses 2 officers over deadly drone strikes on aid workers in Gaza. Yeah, that's right. The Israeli military said Friday that it dismissed 2 officers and reprimanded 3 others for their roles in drone strikes in Gaza that killed 7 aid workers on a food delivery mission, saying the officers had mishandled critical information and violated the army's rules of engagement. I bet. The findings of a retired general's investigation into the Monday killings marked an embarrassing admission by Israel. Embarrassing, yeah. Which faces growing accusations from key allies, including the United States, of not doing enough to protect Gaza's civilians from its war with the Hamas militant group, or international human rights organizations and stuff. The findings are likely to bolster widespread skepticism over the Israeli military's decision-making. Palestinians, aid groups, and human rights organizations have repeatedly accused Israeli forces of firing recklessly at civilians throughout the conflict, a charge Israel has denied. It's a tragedy, military spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari told reporters, quote, it's a serious event that we are responsible for, and it shouldn't have happened. Well, yeah, and we will make sure it won't happen again. Okay. With pressure mounting on Israel, Hagari and other officials shared the results of the investigation with reporters on Thursday. The speed of the probe and the swift punishment of 5 senior officers were unusual. Such investigations are often slow and in most cases end without charges being filed. Yeah, that's the problem. Human rights activists have long complained that Israeli forces operate in a climate of impunity, an allegation the military rejects. I'm sure they do. Still, the punishments and apologies seem unlikely to calm the rising international outcry. Yeah, 7 dead people now over the deaths of World Central Kitchen workers, or to reassure international aid groups that it is safe to resume operations in Gaza, where nearly a third of the population is on the brink of starvation. The fact that this has happened before, and that I've seen Israeli officials try to imply that the Palestinians were using international aid organizations, including the United Nations, to fund terrorist activity or to operate within terror cells and everything like that, should tell you that there is a very slanted idea of what's going on in the region. Again, we still have no Scott. I'm assuming we're still live, still going. So I will. Oh, Scott says, sorry, my computer is frozen. God dang it. Well, keep trying to get reconnected, Scott, and I will keep it going. Just speeding through the news stuff. If anybody in the comments has anything that they wanted to bring up as far as news, they are more than welcome to. Very happy to talk about it. And I will pop up some articles here. And so we can bring that up. Let's see. This is out of AP. Again, very different sort of a perspective there. After 6 months of war, Israel's isolation grows with no end in sight. I got to give it to the AP. And what is it? Joseph Fetterman here for choosing to focus on the isolation of Israel in this moment and not Gaza or just Palestine in general, which has been under major lockdown for like half a year at this point and has been getting absolutely hammered into the Stone Ages. So yeah, I think that kind of matters, you know? But continuing, this is Jerusalem's AP. When Israel declared war against Hamas last October, it stood unified at home and enjoyed broad backing from around the world following an unprecedented attack by the Islamic militant group. 6 months later, Israel finds itself in a far different place, bogged down in Gaza, divided domestically, isolated internationally, and increasingly at odds with its closest ally. The risk of a broader regional war remains real. Despite Israel's fierce military onslaught, Hamas is still standing. Well, yeah. If significantly weakened. The offensive has pushed Gaza into a humanitarian crisis, displacing more than 80% of its population and leaving over 1 million people on the brink of starvation. Yet Israel has presented a post-war vision acceptable to its partner hasn't presented a post-war vision acceptable to its partners, and ceasefire talks remain at a standstill. Here are 6 takeaways from the first 6 months of the war. Battlefield stalemate. Battlefield. Yeah, that's what that is. Israel declared war in response for Hamas's October 7th border attack, which the militant group killed 1,200 people, most of them civilians, and kidnapped about 250 others. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu set 2 objectives: destroying Hamas, bringing home the hostages. Despite his repeated pledges to achieve total victory, his goals have remained elusive. After steadily conquering most of Gaza in a bruising offensive, God, this language, Israeli ground troops are in a holding pattern marked by small tactical operations and uncertainty over whether the army will march into the southern Gazan city of Rafah, Hamas's last significant stronghold. I've noticed here they keep referring to it as Gaza and not referring to this as Palestine. Like this is an international conflict between 2 countries. But of course, that's because we're talking about a government that doesn't respect the international borders that were laid out by the United Nations. Netanyahu has repeatedly vowed to invade Rafah, but he faces broad international opposition, makes sense, including from the United States, because of the hundreds of thousands of displaced Palestinians sheltering there. Netanyahu claims to have a plan to evacuate the civilians, but it isn't clear whether it is ready or would satisfy the Americans, or if it's even real. Even if Israel does invade Rafah, there is no guarantee of long-term success. Well, yeah. Although Hamas appears to have suffered heavy losses, its forces have managed to regroup in areas abandoned by Israel. Well, and the fact that the more that they do this, the more public support turns to this terrorist organization. It's literally what happens every single time. It's what the U.S. has dealt with abroad, is that the more that they attack all these quote-unquote militant groups, the more support they actually get in terms of the actual people on the street. Because then they get to say, see, look at these monsters that are attacking us. See, look, they must really hate all of us and want to destroy all of us. This is the great Satan, right? Like that. That's exactly what happens. And the fact that people don't get it is wild. Hey, you're back.
People, I'm back, at least temporarily. I think my camera keeps freezing. Talking of on the street, I was talking to some of my Russian students. I teach English in a school over here, and most of my students are Russian. They fled the war, basically. They were telling me that if they go back, they can be... It just kind of brought home the reality of the war for them, basically. If they were to go back to Russia, they could be walking down the street, and the conscription guys, they patrol around, looking for people of the right age to go and fight in the war, and they can just grab you, and they don't even let you go home to get your things. They just take you off. If you refuse to go with them, they'll just take you off, send you to the front line. And unless you're part of that private group, the Wagner group, that's now metamorphosized into something else, unless you're part of that group, you just basically stay on the front line until you're dead. Yeah. And I'm sure it's the same in Ukraine as well. So this war, the Russia-Ukraine war, is just a way to depopulate again. And obviously that's happening with the Israel-Gaza situation.
Oh my God, they're being pretty efficient with it too, man. In terms of loss of human life with this has been insane.
Just a massacre. I mean, there's no other way of saying it, really.
Yeah, it's why the term of referring to it as a battlefield, or like a battle, implies that there's like multiple sides on this, because Hamas is a terror cell organization at this point that was promoted originally by Israel as an opposition group to the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization. And they promoted Hamas. They actually have, like, if you look it up, like connections with the origins of Hamas and stuff like that. They pretty much set it up, Yeah, because they wanted to divide Palestine, and they did successfully. And now they're cutting it up piece by piece. And they've constantly flouted the government. I'm not talking about Jewish people. I'm talking about the Israeli government has constantly flouted United Nations resolutions over this, which, again, I'm no big fan of the United Nations, but if we're supposed to pretend that this is the great international forum in which all of us work together for international cooperation, you can't just ignore what they say and just start butchering civilians and stuff anytime something doesn't go your way. It's like we talked about. On one end, we have 1,347 people dead. That is a tragedy. I don't in any way mean to make those people's deaths or lives seem any less valuable than they are. They are very valuable. However, 33,000 plus people are dead on the other side of that. That's like a 33-1 thing we got going on here.
I
If
know,
we're going just casualties
it's
of woundings,
inexcusable. It's inexcusable.
it's
And,
insane. It's
yeah,
insane.
It's insane. By the way, I've just posted the link in case anyone wants to come and give their 2 cents as well, because we've probably only got another 10 minutes. Because
Yeah, I only got 2 more articles to cover.
It's actually almost midnight here, and I've got to work tomorrow. But Seth, can you tell that eclipse to hurry up? Because I was hoping we'd get a glimpse of that before.
I have no idea if we already had it or not, Scott. I literally don't, dude. It is so overcast.
I'll tell you what, Seth. Is there a light near you? Just very quick, very secretly, when we're not while I'm talking, you just switch it off and just say, "Oh, that's it," and then that'll be enough. I'm sure the listeners won't notice. I think you've lost the audio there. You're on mute. Maybe you're muted because
I figured
went over and knocked out the Wi-Fi.
I figured you picked the wrong person in America to be your eclipse correspondent on this one, man. Because like I got nothing, dude.
Where you're only going to get 20% of the.
Well, the clouds are so thick that I can't even see the tops of the hills around me. I just see a snow line and a bunch of clouds. I
like to think we always try to tackle things from another perspective, and we want to see the eclipse from just outside the path of the main eclipse. Hey, all the mainstream media, they're covering the actual eclipse. Yeah, we're looking at the eclipse from a different perspective.
Yeah, I love it. But quickly, we had Nicaragua seeks to halt German arms exports to Israel at World Court. Let's see, The Hague. Reuters, just really quickly here, Nicaragua asked the International Court of Justice on Monday to order Germany to halt military arms exports to Israel and resume its funding of the United Nations Palestinian Refugee Agency, UNRWA, saying there is a serious risk of genocide in Gaza. Yeah, risk of genocide puts it lightly. Nicaragua's agent ambassador Carlos Jose Aguelo Gomez said the court told the court Berlin had violated the 1948 Genocide Convention by continuing to supply Israel with arms after the International Court of Justice judges ruled it was plausible that Israel violated some rights guaranteed under the Genocide Convention during the assault on Gaza.
Sorry, I was
sorry about that.
That's okay. No, that's
somebody
fine.
just started up a truck right here. It's fine. But yeah, it's specifically over the fact that by supplying arms repeatedly to a country that has shown no desire to have an actual ceasefire here or to engage in the diplomatic process, that you're actively supporting a genocide of people. And there's a supreme argument to be made for that. And it's actually something that the ICJ is like going over right now. And while I don't hold a lot of hope for it, because the United States and several other major players almost always side with Israel on this, no matter what, to the point where we can be talking ridiculous stuff of like killing reporters and international aid workers, and there's not even like a chastisement of any of this stuff. The United States will be like, we'll pull funding from any country that dares to chastise these guys.
But Seth, news just in, obviously this might turn out to be nothing, but Qatar cautiously optimistic as Israel and Hamas continue ceasefire talks. Let's just read what this says. Netanyahu says a date has been set for Rafah offensive. That doesn't sound very much like a ceasefire. The Israeli Prime Minister did not say when the invasion would take place.
That is not a ceasefire.
That does not sound like it says here, but there are conflicting reports emerging about how the talks are progressing for both Israel and Hamas in regional media. That sounds to me like Qatar have been tasked with the task of trying to negotiate a ceasefire. Yeah. They're trying to spin it like we're making progress, and then Netanyahu's like, well, no one told me anything about any ceasefire.
Yep, and I'm planning on an offensive in Rafah, and you're like, yeah, peace talks, huh? Peace.
Yeah, I think we'll say the jury is out on that ceasefire at the moment.
No
it's a false alarm.
Well, and keep in mind that Qatar, just like Saudi Arabia, has always been really close with less specifically Israel and more Western interests that also have interest in Israel, specifically the United States and the United Kingdom, that have always had their fingers in the modern Saudi government. You know what I mean? Using them essentially as a pseudo puppet regime, because while Saudi Arabia has a lot of pull, man. They don't have the kind of pull that a lot of people seem to think that they do, especially then the Alex Joneses love to point the finger at, well, it's the Saudis controlling everything. And it's like, dude, the United States literally could crush them at any moment. Same with the UK. And they've propped these guys up for the better part of a century now. So I don't know about the whole them controlling the whole world thing. But then we also have here.
I was going to say, Seth, we're kind of running out of time. I was going to ask you, what's your opinion about how since 1969 and then maybe 73, 74, we haven't been back to the moon. And then all of a sudden, the last 18 months, everyone's flying off there, shooting every country like India, China, Japan, US, everyone's and the UK.
Propaganda war.
They're sending off their little capsules to crash land on the moon. Most of them seems to be crashing instead of actually landing. They're like, they work for 2 days and then don't work anymore. What's all that about? Like, why suddenly the big interest in the moon?
Because it's the big distraction from everything else that's going on, including potentially World War III, which is kind of a big deal. I don't know, giant genocide going down, tens of thousands of people getting massacred in like 6 months. Kind of a big deal. But then, hey, we're going to the moon, guys. We're going to the moon. We don't have money for anything, like all sorts of inflation stuff rising everywhere. People can't afford jack squat. Really quick before we end stuff, I have 2 last articles, and I'm going to run through one of them real quick. Literally just saying Mexico to Iran. This is out of Al Jazeera. Highly recommend somebody look this up. Why are attacks on embassies so controversial? International law decrees that embassies are inviolable. Recent attacks on embassies have breached that understanding, prompting anger. Mexico and Ecuador are locked in a diplomatic spat after Ecuadorian police raided the Mexican embassy in Quito on Friday to arrest former Ecuadorian President Jorge Glass. Glass has been seeking political asylum in Mexico and the Mexico embassy since December and was convicted twice of corruption. Then also we have Iran's consulate in Syria's capital, Damascus, was destroyed by a suspected Israeli missile strike. And back and forth, we have a bunch of different attacks on sites that would normally be considered verboten, stuff that nobody should be touching in the first place because it sets a terrible precedent. And so obviously there are no true rules of war, but a bunch of people have tried to set this stuff up to prevent there from being giant, never-ending bloodshed. And unfortunately, a lot of people are not respecting that at the moment. The Mexico thing is with Ecuador is a little bit more like the whole diplomatic immunity thing, not quite ringing true when you have somebody that's just trying to go, oh, hey, I'm hiding in this building, so suddenly it's no longer okay for you to put me on, like to arrest me and put me in prison for the crimes I've committed against this people here, which in cases of political corruption charges can be pretty big deal in a lot of these countries. And then finally here, just to cap it off, I thought this was kind of hilarious that the Vatican of all people would love to open their mouths on this one. We have Vatican blasts gender affirming surgery, surrogacy, and gender theory as violations of human dignity, saying that it's on par with people that commit, abortion and use contraception. So the Catholic Church saying that, and it says that you're against God or trying to be God. So trans people that have abortions, people that can't have children and need surrogacy in order to have kids for whatever reason. Doesn't matter why, they just can't have kids. People that use contraception. All these different groups of people are against God. Truly, the Catholic Church of all people in the universe it just shouldn't be the ones to open their mouth on this. And all the people that I've seen that want to kiss the ass of Pope Francis, talking about, he's the most progressive Pope anyone's ever had. He signed off on this, man. He signed off on this, saying that they're like of the devil. Like, what?
I think the Pope. I'm sorry to any Catholics listening, because I think a lot of Catholic believers are well-meaning, but the Vatican, the Pope, they're the definition of what appears to be evil. Half of them look evil. These bunch of old men,
straight up,
kind of little dictators. They walk around.
They look like the Emperor from Star Wars, for God's sakes.
Yeah, they could step into any Star Wars movie and be a Dark Lord, especially the previous one, that Ratzinger.
Oh yeah, Ratzinger? Great name.
And they're the most evil guys out there. They get worship. Some of the followers actually worship them. I thought they're supposed to be worshiping God or Jesus.
Well, he's
So
the
yeah,
pontiff of Jesus Christ on earth, Scott. He's the guy that Jesus talks to
they don't
personally.
seem very holy to me. They just don't seem like good people. I'm sorry.
Yep, agreed.
I'm not saying that Catholic followers aren't, but the Vatican, they've got so much money as well. It's just a typical institution.
Well, and you notice they always attack people that like are either relatively normal people or are people in tiny minority groups that they can feel real tough and absolutely wailing on. And unfortunately, there are certain Catholic people that are going to take what these jerk offs have just said and then run with it in order to commit hate crimes on people or just be generally really crappy towards what queer people or just people that have babies. Like I just don't get that one, man. What?
Yeah, it's not good.
You have surrogates?
Sticking with religion, moving very quickly now because we're probably in the last few minutes before I have to go. What was the other? Oh, the red heifers, which has been going around the news quite a lot. There's supposed to be a sacrificial ritual involving red heifers in Israel, which is supposed
they finally
to
did it.
Advent of. Did they do it?
No, they're finally doing it. Is what I'm asking.
Oh, well, they're supposed to be doing it. No, they're supposed to be doing it imminently.
Oh man,
whether they've done it or not. I mean, these cows have to be selected with no. All hairs have to be completely red. It literally takes them 10 years to find a cow.
It was insane when I first heard of it, but as a vegan now, it's even more disgusting and horrifying.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty. But anyway, that's supposed to be happening. I'm
For
just
the
going
end
to
of days, don't worry, the Mashiach will come back because we murdered a red cow. Like,
although we do seem to be in the end of days at the moment.
Scott, haven't we been saying this since like 2014? Haven't people been saying this since? I'm old enough to remember, and I know you are too. Y2K, man. I like, or what is it?
You know, I'm a spring chicken. I'm barely over the age of 20.
I thought you were like 26. I know that's what all the old ladies say. Is I was like, I'm 26. I'm like, aren't you like 50 something? I'm 26. 26.
Anyway, look out for the wormwood star that I keep talking about, that which is also known as Artemis.
Talk about the horns on that. I have to ask you, when they talk about the horns on that, do you mean like the tail of the comet is like a twin tail, or that
it's supposed to be like a horn shape? I have no idea, honestly.
Which is what that would suggest to me, is like twin tails, which then makes me laugh so hard because that's like stuff from Warhammer Fantasy or like Warhammer 40K or whatever, which is like goofy nerd crap of the twin-tailed comet. And I'm like, really? That's what we're going with? The devil's comet. I'm just, man, some people are grasping at straws, man. Grasping at straws.
Yeah. I'm just going to give my last words and then get ready, sort of upload the outro music. So my last comments are, sorry it's been a while for us to come back again, but here we are. Sorry for the technical problems. I will try and sort out Rumble. I need to do a test stream on Rumble for next time. Again, I'm going to post the buy me a coffee for any donations. It really would be helpful. Subscriptions to StreamYard and subscriptions to Rumble for streaming, and they're bouncing every month. If anyone can contribute, just anyone out there who's got loads of money, be grateful. Also, don't forget
$5 or $1 or something at this point would help, dude. I get it.
If you go to buymeacoffee.com and then put /Scott Sentinel on the end, you'll get the link and you can just donate there. Also, if you go to I'm putting it in the chat as well, www.truthsentinel.co.uk, and you go on there, you go halfway down, you'll find the subscription list for the Truth Sentinel book called Truth Synthesis, which will be coming out at the end of this year. Should be a really good book, honestly. I have excerpts from all the guests, 40 guests that we've had on the show, including Sean Stone, Gareth Ike, Max Egan, with the woke chatbot giving some commentary in the book as well, and me giving some background info on what it was like talking to the guests and stuff. I'm hoping it's going to do well. We might get it published, or we'll self-publish. But if you're interested, put your name down on the Truth Sentinel website on the subscription list.
Did you?
One more
I'm just
time,
curious.
www.truthsentinel.co.uk. Look for this. Subscribe to the book. Sorry, sir.
You're totally good, man. Sorry for interrupting. Do you have the interview with Douglas Dietrich? Did you cover any of that in there, or no? Was he not one?
Yeah, I've got 40 guests. Douglas Dietrich was one of them. I'm going to go back, take little snippets out.
Jasvinder Sangira?
Jasvinder Sangira. I'm going to put all the
Nice.
getting little excerpts and put it into text. Get the chatbot to talk, to give its commentary. Add my own, and should be like a proper book size paperback with. I think it's going to be a good book, and it'll be something that can also maybe I can sell and raise money for the to get some better equipment and to pay for all the streaming, etc.
Good, man. Because those first few interviews that you had with people like Jasvinder Sangira and before that, Sean Stone and stuff like that, I absolutely, actually, I think it was less the Sean Stone one because that was a little bit later, but a couple of your early ones, I absolutely adored, man. And that's what got me listening to your show in the first place, and then even brought us into contact and stuff. So absolutely fantastic that you're finally putting something together with that, because you deserve it, man.
Yeah, cheers, man. And hopefully I'll try and get maybe a couple more big name guests to add into the last two chapters of the book. Maybe try and get David Icke, maybe try and get I might even try and, love him or hate him, I might even try and get Alex Jones on here. Just a couple
if you could, I would be highly surprised at this point.
Yeah, so would I.
We're pretty small, man. We're pretty small.
We're pretty small, but you never know. I'm always surprised that any of them say yes, to be honest. Max Egan.
Yeah.
Max Egan's pretty huge in the world. He's quite famous. Got him. Gareth Icke, okay, he's not David Icke, but I think I'm going to ask. At least I can put Icke on the front cover of my book, and everyone's going to assume it's David.
That's brutal, man. That's brutal. Gareth Icke's pretty cool, man.
I like to think that I had the first interview with Gareth Icke before he actually broke out and started. Now he actually is a presenter on the David Icke channel.
Oh wow!
He was just a musician before. I think I was one of the first people that actually spoke to him about anything apart from the music.
Yeah, I had only known him about the music stuff, which I thought was pretty solid.
Everything we talked about on that episode I did with Gareth Icke really applicable to today. It's all about, we basically discussed how if everyone just refused to fight, there would be no wars. That was the main gist of the show. Just going to the chat before we say goodbye. Hey guys, just woke up now to get your notification of live stream. Never mind, everyone can watch the recording. And if you are watching the recording, again, go to our website, www.truthsentinel.co.uk. If you can subscribe to the book, which is coming out at the end of the year. And also, if you can donate to that, buymeacoffee.com/Scott Sentinel. I'd appreciate it. Great to be back. We will try and do another episode much sooner than we did this time. Hopefully sorry
sometime this month, maybe. That could be cool. Maybe not. No definitive anything, man.
At the very least, 1 month from now. At the very least, but we might do it before that. Sorry, it was to do with, there was like multiple sicknesses and things
and
going
partly
on.
it's on me too, dude. Partly it's on me because of family stuff of trying to set up crap with my aunt, and then she keeps like canceling on me, and then it just keeps pushing it back further, and then I feel like a jackass because then I've canceled stuff with Scott, and then then he gets sick, and then it just back and forth, and I'm like, this is heinous, man. This was
just
heinous.
The way it is sometimes. That's life, and let me just see if I can find the outro music. So any last words from you, Seth, before we sign off?
It's great to talk to you, man. It was great to be able to talk to the audience, anybody that catches this on the recording or that caught it live there. Thank you for listening. Try and get with us next time. Anybody that actually wants to be on the podcast, we're trying to work to have a little bit more time to have people potentially come on and do like a little talk segment and stuff, have whatever you want to talk about, whatever sort of news you want to talk about, or anything that's just going on that feels important to you that you want to discuss, because honestly, this is all for you guys. This is all for you guys, and a little bit for us of just having an outlet to be able to talk about this and not feel like we're going absolutely freaking insane. So
absolutely.
Thanks, man.
Well said. Yeah, well said. Thanks for joining us, Seth. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Till next time, hopefully about a month from now. It's been good to catch up. Yeah, we need you guys just as much as you probably need to hear people talking about what's going on in the world. Because it's a crazy world out there. it'll probably be even crazier in by next month. So catch you later, everyone. Thanks a lot.